The final chapter on JFK, Chapter 11, Segment 3, The Quick Fix.
The quick fix. That was a term given to the destruction and rebuilding the crime scene. President Kennedy's parade limousine. The quick fix allowed for destruction of all of the evidence within the limousine, and this occurred while President Kennedy was being buried. While all of America was watching TV and everyone was in mourning, the limousine was being motored to Detroit City, scheduled for destruction. When I say destroyed, it wasn't crushed up, but rather 80 or 90% of all of the parts and pieces of the vehicle were taken off, stripped, and never used again. Johnson brought a team together in early December under a concept called Operation Quick Fix, and that was to figure out how the destroyed limousine could be worked and fitted together to create a new bulletproof limousine for the new president. The excuse given by the Johnson administration for destroying the crime scene and then using very little of the vehicle that remained to create a new car instead of just ordering and building a new car was it had to be done quickly because there was, ready for this? Quote, there is a pressing need for presidential transportation. End of quote. Pressing need. Must have been an emergency to have to destroy the crime scene and to get it ready for the new president. But that's not quite true. The pressing need for presidential transportation had already been solved. Number one, Kennedy had 2 limousines that were used to transport him around Washington, D.C. all the time. A presidential limousine, such as the type that was destroyed, was only used in parades. That's the first item. The second item is that FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover gave Lyndon Johnson a bulletproof limousine to use within a day or two after the assassination, and Johnson had the use of that for as long as he wanted. Additionally, which many historians forget, there were other bulletproof limousines for any president to use in any type of parade. One was a 1950 Lincoln Cosmopolitan that was used by Truman, Eisenhower, and JFK. That was the one that JFK liked the best, and it had an actual bulletproof canopy over the back. There was also a 1942 Lincoln Custom that was bulletproof. And of course, the one limousine that every politician and every dignitary ever wanted to use in parades was the 1950 Cadillac Custom, which was actually used by Queen Elizabeth when she came to visit the United States. In terms of the Operation Quick Fix excuse, the Kennedy crime scene, the vehicle was stripped down to its core, absolutely to its frame. New tires had to be put on, which were bulletproof and heavier and larger, along with new wheels. The frame had to be beefed up in order to hold the additional weight. A new engine had to be put in, 430 cubic inch engine, 350 horsepower. A new permanent top had to be put in. Heavy-duty suspension had to be installed. Struts, shocks, bullet-resistant glass. The floor had to be fitted with 1/8 inch steel plate, with the sides of the car having 3/8 inch, almost half-inch titanium plate with a 1,500-pound bulletproof back glass. The car was completely rebuilt from the Kennedy limousine / crime scene vehicle, which weighed 5,100 pounds. Johnson's quick fix almost doubled the weight to 10,000 pounds. The final vehicle, which was completed in May of 1964 and delivered to the White House in June of 1964, looked nothing like the original Kennedy parade limousine. And the reason it didn't is because it contained only 10 to 15% of the vehicle's original parts. Maybe the horn, maybe the steering wheel, but not even the upholstery or the seats were the same. So if you can imagine in Operation Quick Fix, it was gut the vehicle, double its weight, change it completely, use only 10 to 15% of what was on the vehicle originally, so you can fill a pressing need for presidential transportation. As I have discussed in the past, Lyndon Johnson and his administration were known for not always telling the truth. And in this case, the destruction of the crime scene and the excuse for destroying the crime scene were lies. The destruction of evidence in a criminal case is in itself a crime, if you or I did it, but not if you're king of the hill. Now, did the crime scene really have to be destroyed so Lyndon Johnson would have a bulletproof parade limousine made up of only 15 to 20% of the actual original limousine parts? Probably not. There were many other vehicles in the presidential fleet. Some were bulletproof. Maybe Lyndon Johnson just wanted to have that car destroyed so he could get right back in and get back to work taking that limousine all over the place. That's not what happened. After the car was destroyed, after it was rebuilt, it was taken back to Washington, and Johnson didn't ride in it. To my knowledge, he rode in it one time, and he actually had it sitting in the White House garage for 4 months before he even got in it. And he went one time with the president of the Philippines for 25 minutes around Washington, D.C., and boom, put the toy back. And according to the records that I've seen, that was the only time he used that limousine during the duration of his presidency. Pretty poor excuse. See you in the next segment.